Welcome everyone. We're just gonna give it some more time to get the most amount of people in here. We'll probably start at around 9:05. In the meantime, if you have any questions at all during the presentation, you could use the Q&A panel found in your Zoom controls. I think it's at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions. I do have my colleague here, JC, in the session here as well, and he'll respond to your questions during my presentation. And after the presentation, we'll go over those questions as well as if you have any additional questions, we'll go over those too. And while we're waiting for more people to join the session, I'm going to go ahead and push a poll. It just has a couple of questions just to get to know everyone that's here in the session, to know your role in BIM Track, your hub role, project role, as well as your role in the company, just so we get a better understanding of the attendees. So if we could take a couple seconds to answer those questions, that would be very much appreciated. I've got more people joining. Welcome. I do have an ongoing poll, just I think about 4 questions or so, just to get to know you guys a little better, know your role in BIM Track as well as your role in your company. So just a couple seconds to answer that question would be very much appreciated. And if you have any questions at all when I start my presentation, you could use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen in your Zoom controls to ask the questions. It's anonymous. I've got my colleague JC in this session as well. He's going to be responding to those questions. And after my presentation, we'll go over any questions that we think would be useful to everyone here, as well as any additional questions that come in. So feel free to use that Q&A panel. It's our job to make sure you're following the session and you understand what you could do with BIM Track. So don't be shy at all to use that Q&A, ask your questions. And we're also recording the session, so you will get the recording at the end of the day today. Like I said earlier, we're going to start at 9:05 just to get the most amount of people in here before we begin. Welcome, welcome. For those of us just joining, thank you for taking the time out today to join us. I do have a poll. If you could take a couple seconds to respond to those, that would be very much appreciated. It's just a couple questions just to get to know you guys better, know who's in the session today with us. And like I said earlier, during the presentation, use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions. I do have JC in this session with me. He's also a CSM at BIM Track. He'll be responding to those questions. And once I'm done the presentation, we'll go ahead and respond to more questions as well. So. Welcome, welcome. Great. Yes. So that's exactly what we'll be going through. The best way for you to archive your project, so it's available outside of BIM Track and easily retrievable as well. That's what we're going to be going through today. So thank you. We've got more people coming in, so I'm just going to repeat myself. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. We're going to be starting in about a minute or so, just giving it time for more people to come in. For those of us just joining, I do have a poll ongoing. If you could take a couple seconds to answer those questions. We just want to know what your role is in BIM Track or your BIM Track projects, as well as your role in your company, just to get a better idea of who's in here with us. So just a couple seconds. We very much appreciate it if you could respond to the polls. If you've got any questions at all, you could use the Q&A panel. It's anonymous. Type your questions. Don't be shy to ask as many questions as you'd like. It's our job to make sure that you get a good understanding of BIM Track and its features, what you could do with BIM Track. So don't be shy to ask so many questions using the Q&A panel or the chat. The only difference is the Q&A panel is anonymous, but you can also use the chat. We'll be responding. I have my colleague, JC, in the session with me. He's also a customer success manager here at BIM Track. He's going to be responding to those questions in the chat as well as the Q&A panel. After my presentation, if we've got more questions, I'll go ahead and respond to those. If questions that came in while I was presenting, if I find them beneficial to everyone, something that's good for everyone to know, we'll go ahead and repeat those questions and repeat the answers as well, so everyone gets the same information. And the session is recorded, so you don't have to worry about keeping up with every single thing I say. Don't be shy as well to ask me to repeat things, but we do have the recording, something for you to refer to after today's session. It will be sent out by the end of the day today, just so we're all aware. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and end that poll. Thank you everyone that responded. And just a quick introduction of myself. My name's Lolo. I'm Customer Success Manager here at BIM Track. And just like I just said multiple times, it's essentially my job to make sure that you're getting the most out of BIM Track. So any questions at all, please don't be shy to ask. I'm here to answer those questions. I've got my colleague on here as well to answer the questions. I know I keep repeating that, but I find that a lot of people are shy to ask the questions. This is a safe space for everyone. Ask your questions away and we'll respond to them. And in today's agenda, we're going through how you can package your completed BIM Track project in a way that the data is available outside of BIM Track and easily retrievable by everyone. And the way to do that is we're going to be going through ways where you could properly export your users, the issue attributes, your sheets and IFC models, as well as the project metrics for your BIM Track project. All of the information contained in BIM Track can be broadly categorized into these four main topics that I have on there. So your users, the issues, as well as the attributes that are assigned to those issues, your sheets and IFC models if you use the web viewer, and then your project metrics. So it's a step-by-step to show you how to properly export all of your information out of BIM Track. So I'm gonna head into BIM Track now. I'm in my hub. Here are all of my projects. We're gonna focus on this project here that's marked completed. So once I click into my project here, the first thing I want to do, this isn't essential, but it's a good step. We're claiming our project is completed, so just housekeeping, we want to make sure that all of our issues in BIM Track have been resolved and closed. There are 3 ways that you could check that. The first is here on the dashboard, right here. This shows you your active issues. So every issue except closed issues. So if you see this, it means that you have some issues that haven't been resolved and closed. You could go ahead and click into that. It's going to take you to the issue page, and it's going to display all your 40 active issues. Another thing to do would be to head directly to the issues page and apply a filter. Clicking into that the donut in the dashboard did exactly what I'm saying to do right now, which is to head into the issues page, apply your filter to see all of your active issues. If you've got any, it might be time for you to go through and make sure that those issues are resolved. Once you're satisfied, you could go ahead and display all, apply. So all of our 40 issues are displayed. Could head up here, select them all, multi-edit, and you could go ahead and close those issues. Again, this isn't a necessary step. It's just something to do to make sure that your BIM Track project is indeed complete by making sure that all of your issues have been resolved and closed. And you could update the status to reflect that. So once this is all done, I'm just going to go ahead and unselect it all. Once this is all done, it's time for me to start exporting my information out of BIM Track. Another step would be to create a folder on your desktop or any safe location where you're going to be storing all of this information we're about to export. Before we export, I just want to point out in BIM Track, you can only export issues out of the issues page. So the issues displayed on your issues page are the issues that you can export. I removed the filter. I've got 150 issues here. What I'm trying to get at is if you've archived any issues, they're not going to be displayed on the issues page. Instead, you're going to find them right here on the archived issues page. If we want to include those issues in our export, we're going to have to unarchive those issues so they show up on the issues page and we're able to select all and export. So I'm going to head into my archived issues page. I've got some archived issues. Head to my filters. I want to make sure that I have all displayed. There we go. I'm going to select everything and I'm going to restore. I want to restore all of them back into the issues page, giving them a closed or resolved status. I'm going to hit restore. So I no longer have any archived issues. I'm going to head back to my issues page, and now I've got 175 issues, I think, because there were 25 archived. There we go. So I've got 175 issues. Now I'm ready to export. I have all of my issues on the issues page. Just to check again, make sure that all of my issues are displayed. There they all are. First, there are 3 formats that I would advise everyone to export your issues as. We've got the PDF, which would be you creating a comprehensive report of all of your issues. So in that PDF, you're going to have every single issue, in my case, 175. Going to display all of your metrics. You're going to display every single issue property. You're going to include the comments as well that were made under each issue. So right from the issues page, I'm going to head to that gear icon up here, print report. It takes me to the reports page, and it's wanting to print all 175 of my issues. I'm not going to filter for anything at all because I want to print every single issue. So leave that blank. But what I want to do on my report is I want the most recent issue to be at the top. So I'm going to group by creation date in descending order. So the most recent issue is going to be at the top all the way to the very first issue that we created at the bottom. I also want to sort by issue number again, so the most recent stays at the top and the very first issue that we created stays at the bottom. You can group this however you see fit, but this is how I want to do it. I think it's a lot easier to see my most recent at the top and the oldest issue at the bottom. So that's all set. Again, it's a comprehensive report. I want every information included in that report. So make sure you have all of your issue properties turned on. Make sure you select all for all of your metrics as well. And make sure you include comments. You can include archived issues in your PDF report, but I already unarchived them to the issues page. So it doesn't really matter. You could have that turned on or off. There we go. Everything's turned on. I'm going to go ahead and print. Depending on how many issues you have, this could take a while to print. I only have 175. Again, if you've got pages and pages of issues, I've got 276. This could take a while. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. This is the report we have. We've got 175 issues in our project and total printed issues 175. That's great. This report contains every single issue. I've got my metrics as well. I've got my average open issue date. I've got my graph here that shows me on a weekly basis how many issues we had and how many issues were closed. And down here are all of my metrics. So those 175 issues, I have them grouped by assigned to, by priority, phases, so on and so forth. Contains all of my information. Scroll down, here's my issue. I've got my issue number, that's the creation date because I said to group by creation date. You can also find the creation date up here as well. I have my issue number, issue title, all of the description. I've got my main viewpoint. So when you create a PDF report, it only contains one viewpoint, which is your main viewpoint. There it is. I've got all of my issue properties, my comments as well. There's a couple of information missing in the report. You're missing the closing date. So if you create a report of all of your closed issues, it doesn't really show you the date that your issue was closed, but that isn't something we have to worry about just yet because the closing date will be included in the Excel report. I said earlier on, we're going to be creating a PDF, Excel, and a BCF. The BCF is the standard format for issues in BIM projects. So we're going to create that as well. So in the PDF, we're missing closing date, not to worry, it's going to be included in the Excel. Right here, we only have one saved viewpoint, not to worry as well. In the BCF, all of your viewpoints are going to be included. We're missing attachments, same thing. All of your attachments are going to be included in your BCF file. There we go. I went ahead and saved my report here, PDF, just to, this is what that looks like. Like I said, if you've got lots of issues, this might take a while to, the PDF might take a while to create, and then you could save that in that folder that we created to save all of our exports. So that's that for reports. I'm going to head back to my issues page and I'm going to export as a BCF. I still have my filter on to display every single issue I have in one page. And again, you do that by heading to the display, select all, and apply. Head back to the gear icon up here. I'm going to select every issue on this page, go back, and I'm going to export. I want to export as a BCF. Again, the BCF, that's your standard formats for issues in BIM projects. I want to include those attachments. So if you've got PDFs attached to your issues, you want to turn this on so it's included in that export. Go ahead and hit export. It's going to tell you your request to export your issues have been queued. Once the export is completed, you're going to get an email telling you your export is done. The email is going to include a link to where you can download your BCF. This is what that looks like here. If I look at that, it's going to tell you your BCF file is ready for download. These are all of the issues that I exported. I did this yesterday just to save time. Again, depending on how many issues you're exporting, it might take a while for you to receive the email. You will receive the email though once it's done. That's the link. Once I click on that link, it's going to download my my BCF for me. Just have to go keep, and it's going to download that. So let's head back. There we go. I still have everything selected. Once the BCF is done, I can see if you have a BCF reader, you could go ahead and open your BCF there. I've got my BC file here, so I could see all of those issues are exported, all 175 of them. Just holding shift here, we can see I've got 175 issues. If I select the one right here, I could see the title of my issue, the creation date. I could see my status and as well as the type of issue. In here, I've got all of my issue description and all of my viewpoints are included in the BCF. Down here, I've got my comments as well included in the BCF. So these are all of our issues in BCF format. So we have one more format left, which is the Excel. Let's go ahead and make that smaller. Back to my issues page again, display all, multi-edit, and select. Sorry, head to the gear icon, select all, go back to export, drop down, we're gonna export as an Excel. Once I hit export, it's going to download that Excel file for me. And there we go. Go ahead and open that up. This was the export from yesterday as well, just to save me time. This is what the export file is going to look like. Your hub name, it's going to timestamp when that export was done. Your project name, issue number, issue title. It contains all of your attributes as well. The status, type of issue, priority, your discipline, zone, phase assigned to, due date, issue group, confidentiality. Down here, of course, it's blank for issues that don't have any confidentiality. Your custom attributes, they're also down here as well. I've got the author of the issue, the creation date, and the closing date. Again, I said in your PDF, you don't have the closing date, but you do have that in the Excel file. So between all three formats that we've exported, every information, you can find the information that you're looking for. If the closing date isn't included in your PDF report, it's included in your Excel report. If your attachments aren't included in your PDF and your Excel, it's included in your BCF. So you exporting all three covers every ground that we need. Let's go ahead and make that smaller. And I'm gonna unselect. So that's that for the issues. We've exported all of our issues, PDF, Excel, and BCF. Next, if you use the web viewer, you could go ahead and download your IFC models and your sheets. I don't find the step very necessary because these models and sheets already exist outside of BIM Track. They're in your authoring platform. So you could go ahead and just hang on to that. But if you don't have access to the files from the authoring platform, you can download your models as well as your sheets from the web viewer. There it is. And save it in the file that we created. So that's that for the web viewer. We've got our models, we've got our sheets, all of our issues have been, and the information attached to those issues have been exported. So if I head back to my issues page here. So when it comes to making sure that all of the information in BIM Track exists outside of BIM Track and is retrievable, we've essentially covered all the ground. We've exported our issues, we've exported our models and sheets if that's what you want to do. Now, the next steps that I'm going to list aren't necessary unless you plan on actually deleting your BIM Track project. If you only plan on creating, exporting the information and having it available outside of BIM Track, this is it, we're done. Export your issues, export your models and your IFCs. That's it. But if you plan on coming back into BIM Track and deleting the project because it's completed, you might want to do the rest of these. Before I go on, I just want to point out, you're not paying for space in BIM Track. You're paying for the number of seats. So deleting, the space is unlimited. You can always leave your completed BIM Track projects in BIM Track, and you're gonna have access to it for as long as you have a BIM Track account and you have access to BIM Track. You're going to have access to those issues, to that project, I'm sorry. But I understand right now the need for you to want to delete a completed project just to organize or clean up your project's page. Because right now, all of your projects completed or not are displayed on your projects page, and it might be a little cleaner for you to take out projects that have been, for you to delete projects that have been completed. We are working on a feature that will allow you to mark projects as completed in BIM Track, so you don't have to go through that stress of deleting it, or mark projects or put projects to sleep that are on hold, so it doesn't mess up your project metrics. We are working on that. How soon the feature is going to be available, we're not sure yet. So this is a solid workaround until that becomes available. So the next steps, again, if you're going to be deleting your BIM Track projects, is to have a record of every individual, all of the users that were in that project. I'm going to head to my hub settings page. This is where I can find all of the users in my hub. And then I'm going to head to projects and filter for the users on that completed project here. Apply. It's filtered it down to these users. Usually I would say select and export users, and it will create an Excel file of these users. Right now, this feature doesn't respect your filters, and when you hit export, it's going to want to export every single user in the hub, regardless of the users that I have selected. We are working to get that fixed, but I do have a workaround for that for now. So what I'm going to do is, it's a workaround, not the best, but it does the job. I'm going to go ahead. So I've filtered for all of the individuals in my completed project. I'm going to go ahead and select them all like that. Oops, actually, select them all just like so. I'm going to right click and print. And this is what I have. So I have their email addresses, I have their first and last name, as well as their hub role. You can play around with your paper size to include more information, but I find just their email, first and last name, and maybe their hub role is the information you need. You don't need the rest of it, but if you do, there's a lot here to play around to include more information. So I'm going to change that back to portrait. Go ahead and save that in the file that you have created. So let me go ahead and cancel. And uncheck. So that's that. We've created a PDF of every user in that project. The next step would be to head to my project settings and save a template. So if we do not have a template already saved, we can go ahead and head here and create a template. And I'm going to call it my completed car dealership template. Create, and there we go. So that's it. Exported all of our issues, Excel, PDF, BCF. We've downloaded our IFC models as well as the sheets from the web viewer if we're using the web viewer. We've also gone ahead and saved all of the users in that project, and we've saved the project settings as a template. Like I said, saving the users and the template for your project is only useful if you do plan on deleting your project and maybe later on in the future recovering that project. So everything's been exported and downloaded. We're good to go. So if I head back to my projects page now, I want to go over, again, if you have any questions, use the Q&A. It will be answered. And if any of your questions aren't answered, once I'm done, we'll readdress those questions. While I'm here in my project, what I want to go over right now is, so I've deleted, this is my project. I don't want to delete it right now. So let's just imagine that I've deleted the project after exporting everything that was needed. And now I plan on recovering the project that I deleted in BIM Track for whatever reason. If I go add project, I'm going to give it a name, call it recovery. I'm going to head to my drop down here to show all of my templates. This is why I said to save your template. We're going to apply that template that we created from the completed project. Could go ahead and put a nice picture here. Once I hit create, it's going to take me to my project settings. I don't really have to do anything here. It applied my settings from that template that I had saved. First thing I want to do is head to my teams and users page because I need to invite users back into the project. This step is only necessary if when you import your BCF file, because your BCF file contains who was assigned to an issue. If you want that information reflected in your recovery project in BIM Track, you will have to add those users back into the project. If you don't want that in the recovery file, that's fine. You could go ahead and skip this part. But what I'm going to do is back to my hub settings page because I want that reflected. Go ahead, and if you already deleted those users from your hub, you can go ahead and re-invite them. I'm just going to find those users again. I didn't delete them. There we go. I'm just going to find them so I could re-invite them into that project. It's filtered it down. I'm going to, oops. Okay, I'm going to select them all. There they are. I'm going to head to that gear icon again, batch assign, and I'm going to assign them to my recovery project here. And there it is. I'm going to bring them in as editors and add. Now that's done. Once I head back to my projects, teams, and users page, all of those users are on there. And now it's time for me to import all of those issues. There they all are. So I'm going to head back to my issues page and import them. You can only import your BCFs, of course. Head back to my gear icon, import. And I'm going to drag and drop my BCF, or I can browse for it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and browse. Choop, there it is. Open that and import. Again, this is going to take a couple minutes depending on how many issues you're importing. I'm only doing 175, so it's probably not going to take that long. But once your import is complete, you're going to get an email as well telling you that your import is complete. This is what it's going to look like. Your BCF file was imported successfully. Here are all of the issues. And once you head back to BIM Track to your projects page and go to your project, the issues page in your project, you're going to find all of your imported issues. I did that yesterday for just to save time, so I'm going to click into that project, head to my issues page. Here are all 175 of my issues. So now what I want to go through is, like I said, you've exported your issues. When you try to recover them in BIM Track like I just did, there is some information that will be lost during that process. So I want to go through that just to show you the information as well as some of the information that may change, just so we're aware of the limitations to deleting your BIM Track project and trying to recover it. So I will go ahead and open up, because this is the recovery project, I'm going to open up my the main project that was quote unquote deleted so we can compare the information. So I've got this right here. I'm just going to make this smaller so we can compare. We're going to compare issue, the TOS mezzanine. So recovery, actual project. What we're noticing is right off the bat, the issue number is different. So when you export your BCF and you import it back into an empty project like I did, it's going to renumber the issues starting from 1. Of course, if you import it into a project that already contains issues, it's going to start from the next number. So if, let's say, if you have 10 issues in your project and you import your BCF into that project, it's going to start from 11. So that's the first change we notice. The title of your issue remains. That's great. It remembers your main viewpoint, which is also great in the recovery, and all of your viewpoints are also there. Same in the recovery. If we scroll down a little bit, it remembers your description, great. It remembers your status, what type of issue it was. It also remembers your priority and your discipline. Now, when we get to these other attributes, this is where you begin to lose information. In my completed project, I had this issue set to the roof as the zone. But as we can see here, it says not set. So when the attributes that are going to be remembered are your status, type, priority, discipline. The other attributes are not remembered, unfortunately. And what BIM Track will do, because those attributes are not saved in the BCF, what BIM Track will do when you import the BCF back into BIM Track is it will try to reassign your default attribute. And what I mean by that is if we look here, we do have phase set to coordination, which matches our completed project. This is a coincidence. It doesn't remember your phase. What BIM Track did was it assigned my default phase. In my project settings, if I head there and show you what I'm talking about, of my recovery project, for zones right here, there's no default zone, but for phases, I do have coordination set to default. So BIM Track applied the default phase, which is coordination, to that issue. And it would do the same for the rest of the attributes. If there's a default, it would apply it. The only attributes that it remembers, like I said earlier, was your status, your type, your discipline, status, type, priority, discipline. The rest of them, it's going to assign your default. So that's what it did here. There's no default zone, so it's not set. It remembers who that issue was assigned to. And this was because in the beginning, like I said, I had re-invited those users back into the project. So BIM Track is able to map those issues to who it was assigned to when I imported my BCF. You can skip this phase in the recovery if this isn't important information to you and not invite users back into the project. But if you do, BIM Track will remember those who was assigned the issue. You lose your due date, you lose your issue group, you lose the confidentiality, those teams, you lose your notification list, and these two custom attributes as well, there were no default set, so you lose that as well. It's set to not set. Changes that we also noticed that in the recovery project are the author of the project, of the issue. So in the main completed project, it says Matthew authored this issue. But as we can see here, it's changed it to me because I was the one that imported the issue. It's now claiming that I authored the issue. So whoever imports it, the author is going to change to that individual. The creation date stays, which is great. The last changed changes because, well, we did make a change today. So, so there it is. Well, I made that change yesterday. So there it is. It changes the last change date. Who it was last changed by, again, this is a coincidence because I was the last person to make a change to this issue, but that in the recovery, that would reflect the individual that imported your issue. You're also going to lose closing date if you had any as well. If we head back up, it remembers your comments, which is great. Your attachments, it remembers that as well in the recovery, which is great. But something happens to your history, it changes because what BIM Track is doing now is it's displaying your recent history. So this was the original history. Matthew created the issue. He updated the issue he updated the disciplines, so on and so forth. But now that I've exported and deleted my project and re-imported in the recovery project, it's saying, well, I imported the issue, which is okay, but it's also saying that I updated the issue, I added the viewpoint. So this is the current history. It goes from when I updated it, and all of those issue attributes, it's claiming that whoever imported that issue was the one that made all of those changes. So something to keep in mind as well. A quicker way to also go through and see what changes rather than going from one issue to the next is if you go to your metrics page. Get more space so I could see those numbers a little better. There we are. So if I compare assigned to, BIM Track remembers all of those numbers match. That's great. If I compare author, like we saw, it's going to change to me because I was the one that imported those issues. So you lose that. Same thing for confidentiality. As we saw, you're going to lose that as well. It's not set. Same for your custom attributes. It's going to be different. We saw that. If you check your disciplines, BIM Track does remember that as well. It was contained in your BCF. It's remembered here. So that's fine. Issue group, you're going to lose that information. Phase, you're going to lose that information, or it's going to assign it to your default phase in your project settings, which is what it did. It assigned every single issue to the coordination phase, but as we can see, some of them were in the design phase. Priority, it definitely remembers that, so we're good on that front. Status, it remembers status as well. We're good on that. Type of issue, it remembers, so we're good on that as well. It matches. And our custom attributes, again, same as before, it's not gonna remember, as well as zone. It's not gonna remember the zone. There we go. So that's essentially when you try to recover a BIM Track project that you've deleted in BIM Track, these are the information that you're going to lose. But we do have, you do have your PDF, you do have your Excel, so you can always refer back to those for the missing information. All right, so that essentially is most of what I wanted to cover today. If we have any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and respond to those questions now.
Yeah, thank you, Lolo. Jean-Claude here, by the way. I was the one answering your questions, and there was a lot of good questions here. So we'll go ahead and answer these. There's one question that got repeated like 3 times, so I think we'll start with this one.
Okay.
Are you able to print to PDF from your BCF reader? So if you go back to your BCF.
I don't think, not from, at least not from the BCF file that I have. You're not able to create a PDF from here. You can only export these issues into whatever BIM platform it is that you're working with. But well, let me head into that save as and see what to do. Yeah, no, you cannot do that.
And that's why we're asking to print a PDF also from the report at the beginning. Then another question that was asked a lot was, what happens if I archive a project where I have deleted an account from the hub that was assigned to in some issues? So if you assign to a user and you delete that project, what happens to the assigned to field essentially?
So just so I follow the question, so you have a project, you've already deleted users from your hub that were in that project, so you're wondering what happens to the assigned to. I hope that's
exactly.
it. If you delete a user from your hub, all of the issues assigned to that user become unassigned because the user doesn't exist in BIM Track. So that's what happens. If you're going to delete users from your hub, I would, just for backup, I would say head into your issues page and print a report of all of the issues assigned to that specific user before you delete them. Or another thing, so we're going through the steps again. So before you delete, go ahead and print all of the filter for, if I go to assign to, whoever that user is, filter for those. Let me find someone that has a lot of issues assigned to them. Let me see. I don't know that I have that many issues assigned to me, but if I hit apply, yep, that's 0. So filter for issues assigned to that individual. Let me try if Matthew has any at all. Okay, apply. Okay, so two issues. Filter for that. Head back and create a report. So go ahead to your reports page, create a report of these 2 issues. Turn on all of the metrics, turn on all of the issue properties like we just went through. So you have that PDF of all of the issues assigned to that one individual. Also, just like I've done here, you can filter, select those issues assigned to that individual. If you've got more than 2, like I have, display all, head up here, select all, and then export again as a BCF. That's another backup of those issues assigned to that individual. So if you do, in fact, want to bring them back, all you have to do is reinvite them into the project, import those issues, and it will assign those issues to that individual. So it's just the same step, except now you're filtering for issues assigned to that person before deleting them from your hub. But just bear in mind that all of the issues that you assign to that person will become unassigned once you delete them. And that's, know if there's any more questions in here.
Yeah, we had a question. How can you export the history of an issue?
That's the one big information that you're going to lose, because the history of your issue, we're talking about this, by the way, if I click in here, if you delete your BIM Track project, you're going to lose this, because your BCF doesn't save the history of your issue. The Excel for sure doesn't do that as well, and your PDF does not save the history of your issue. There's no way to get that back. If you try to recover your project like we just went through, we saw that the history becomes a recent history from when I imported the issue. It will tell you that whoever imported that issue, created the issue, updated, essentially did everything that was up here. So you do lose the history. If you don't want to lose the history, do not delete your BIM Track project. Like I said, we are working on a feature that will allow you to mark a project as completed. How soon we're going to have that feature, I'm not sure. I can't really tell you, but for now, do not, if the history is important to you, do not delete your BIM Track project. Like I said, you're not paying for space in BIM Track, so you can leave your completed BIM Track projects in there for as long as you have access to BIM Track. And once that feature is out, we'll let everyone know that's asked the question about being able to mark a project as completed. We'll let you guys know that the feature is available, so you could go ahead and quote unquote close a completed BIM Track project. It still lives in your BIM Track, but at least the history is in there, and you can always come back to refer to that information if it's necessary.
And that was another question. How do I close a project from BIM Track?
Mm-hmm.
We cannot.
So right now we can, but very soon we'll be able to do it. I'm also going to include, because we do have an idea portal where you can vote for different ideas. The more votes, the better. So I'm gonna send this link as well, so you guys can vote and make this happen as soon as possible. There it is. So if you guys want to come in here and vote, the bigger the number, the more likely we are to implement it, at least faster if we see the urgency for it.
And we got one last question here. Is it possible to recover a saved project with any version of BIM Track on any other station?
What do we mean by version of BIM? Because the only way that you can, hopefully I'm understanding the question, the only way that you're going to be able to import your BCFs, let's say your recovery project, is in the web platform. And you're always going to have access to the most recent web platform. Every time you go to BIMtrack.co, the app, I think, you're going to be in the most recent version. If you're talking about the add-ins, all of your issues that show up in the web platform will show up in your Naviswork add-in, your Revit add-in, and so on. So you can always recover it.
Yeah, and the only thing here would be to make sure to have the files to re-import to BIM Track. It's just
Yes.
a matter of where these are, essentially. Yeah, I forgot one question. Sorry. Differences between BCF 2.0 and 2.1. Essentially, it's just that 2.1 is the
The
latest one.
latest, yeah. There's no. I exported those issues using both versions, and I don't really see, at least not on the front end, I don't see a difference between
Yeah,
those two. But 2.1 is the latest version.
yeah. If I remember correctly, it's just a matter of speed and uh, stable and everything. Sorry about this. All right, thank you guys for attending this webinar. If you have any more questions, please ask. We still have some time here.
Hmm.
Otherwise,
I think I saw a question about where the recording will be. I will be
sure.
sending out the recording to everyone here by the end of today. So. Yes, I will be sending out the link as well to vote for the features.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, everyone. In the meantime, while we still have, if there are any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'm gonna post. I'm gonna publish a post poll. I hope I said that correctly. Sounded a little weird, but just a couple more questions to tell us how, if this webinar was useful to you and so on. I think it's about 3 questions. If you could take a couple seconds to answer those questions, very much appreciated. In the meantime, while you guys are responding to the poll, if you have any questions, again, go ahead and ask them and we'll respond. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And if you have any other questions that may come up after today, go ahead and reach out to your customer success manager or use the help button at the bottom of your screen. So if I head into, this is there, right there, go ahead and ask your questions as well, and we'll get back to you with an answer. Because I know more questions might come up, so you always have access to us, and we're always more than happy to answer those questions. So feel free to reach out to us. If not, if there are no questions, you guys are free to go. Thank you so much for taking the time to show up today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we have more webinars in the future that will be useful to you guys. And I hope to hear from you guys later. So thank you for coming. All right. Doesn't look like we're getting more questions. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the session today, and have a great rest of your day.